My name is Chad Lawson. I'm from Strathmore, Alberta, Canada.
You know, the very essence of the mental game is this. The only reason an event matters is because we make it matter.
Welcome to the Mullins Farrier podcast.
Every horse, whatever it was doing, had a season. Once their competition season finished, they took the shoes off, they chucked it out in the field with some other horses, and it had a 2, maybe 3 months period where it went and remembered what being a horse was all about.
Even in a cheaper area, your prices should be set by your skill level, by your experience. And some people might not feel that they're worth, as much as others. But if you're only charging $160 to shoe a horse, then the only way you're making money is on your trims.
The WCB was a way to make sure that you kept the trade alive. I think I'm a custodian of the trade. So it's like we have to keep it going.
It was hard, but, you adapt and overcome. And that probably gets to me where I am now. It's problem solving, horseshoeing's problem solving, and back in the day it was problem solving how to be as strong as the older apprentices. So it's all about adapting and overcoming, which was good.
I know we learn every day, but you do have to put yourself outside the box and just continue to learn, which is why I was just trying to do my fellowship, because I still have apprentices, and if I stay at my AW, I'm stagnant.
Welcome, everyone. No shopkeeping for today. Today's interview comes from the World Championships in Calgary, Alberta. I had heard about Chad for years and was happy to finally meet him in England a couple years back, preparing for Stoneleigh. He was busy with the team prepping, so we didn't have a chance to do the interview there. After his go in Calgary, though, we had some time to chat. I enjoyed hearing Chad's personal and unique philosophies on a lot of topics, including business, marketing, and competition. As you will hear, he's also someone who likes to get involved in making the trade better. And in that spirit, since this recording, he became the president of the Western Canadian Farriers Association. I look forward to seeing what he accomplishes there. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Now, Chad has been on my hit list for years, but I finally got to meet him in person almost a year ago now when you were down in England practicing for Stoneleigh.
Yeah, that's right. That was a fun day.
Yeah. Danny and I just showed up out of the blue, and we got to do a little bit of an interview with the team there. And then,
yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. Edited out everything that Russell said, and it made for a good time.
Yeah, perfect.
So I heard your name, like whenever Western Canada came up, your name came up. You're just one of the more prevalent people out here. Now, why do you think that is?
Yeah, I don't know. I was hoping you were going to tell me. I try and be really involved. Anytime I go to a clinic, competition, conference, whatever, certification, one thing I try and do is I try and get around and say hello to everybody.
Yep.
And I try really hard to remember everyone's name.
You are good at that.
And I feel really bad when I mess it up. So I think just on a personal level, I just try and be friends with everybody, I guess.
Yep. I saw that in full swing at Stoneleigh. Everybody was chatting with you. And
yeah, there's a lot of different languages and accents when you're at the international, but it's still pretty fun.
I want to work on a Google Translate for Jim Balfour.
Yeah. I got pretty in tuned with the Jim Balfour accent when I was over there in Aberdeen.
I think the key is if you have the right number of Guinness, all of a sudden you can understand every word. No?
You can't do Guinness.
One of the stories that I've heard, so Elisa, who worked with me.
Right, yeah.
And who's been on the podcast, I remember she went out to visit. You went to school together, didn't you?
Yeah, we rode the school bus together.
Yeah.
She grew up just down the road from me.
Okay, yeah. And then she went out to visit some family.
Yeah.
And said that she hung out with you for a day or a couple days.
Yeah.
And you have a fairly, I don't know if it's unique, but like a really strong apprenticeship program. You have quite the system set up. Can you explain that one?
Yeah. I'm actually really quite proud of my apprenticeship system. One thing, when you hear people say, oh, I really need to get an apprentice because I'm really, really busy and I got all this work. And even if I just had someone to pull and clinch and sweep the floor. And I'm like, no, that's not what it's about. if you want to take an apprentice, it's because you want to teach. That's how I've looked at it. And I've set up my business around having apprentices. I have horses that are showing at Spruce Meadows here this weekend, but then I also have horses on the book for them to learn too. And then my dad owns an indoor arena as well. So I've got my old horses kicking around there.
Okay.
And it is set up for the apprentices to learn and excel, because, one thing I always think about is the world doesn't need more bad farriers.
Yeah.
I can't be producing bad farriers. And I've had apprentices probably for 13 or 14 years now. And it's really encouraging to see these apprentices go out on their own when they're done with me and make 6-figure incomes and be able to provide for themselves and go to competitions and do really well,
Yeah. So with them, you're not hiring people with the expectation that you're going to keep them as long as you can, and that's it. You're creating the next generation, basically.
Yeah. I mean, they do wind up staying for quite a long time, but I think it's the community is what they really enjoy. So they might start off, say, with me 3 days a week, and then the other days they're going to run their own business.
Right.
And then they'll start dropping days. I had a really good apprentice for 10 years. His name was Keith Orm. And he worked for me for 10 years, and then he moved 3 hours north.
Okay.
So then he had to, obviously had to quit.
Yeah, that makes it a little difficult.
He still kept a few of his own horses on the books around Strathmore, and he still stops in the shop lots. And I think it's just the community that I've sort of created around the shop is no one really wants to leave it, and I've got like Nick Bear. He's worked with me for 6 or 7 years, and he was sort of, ready to be done apprenticing, but he didn't want to leave the family sort of thing. Right.
Yep.
So I've got this one barn called Sweet Talk Stables. They've got some horses here this weekend at Spruce Meadows. And Nick's like, you know what? I just want to come to that barn. So we're there every 3 weeks. So Nick comes every 3 weeks. And Kaylee McIntosh is another one.
Yep.
We got a barn called Tyrell Riding Academy, and we're there every 3 weeks as well. And she comes just on those days.
Okay.
So, even though they're not necessarily with me every day of the week, they don't want to leave the clique, the group, so.
That's cool. And you started 13 years ago taking on apprentices.
Yeah. Keith was actually my very first apprentice.
Okay.
And then the joke was, he was the first apprentice, and then he never left.
And then how many would you have at a time, or what's the maximum number you've taken on?
Yeah. So right now I have 6, but they're all part-time.
Okay.
So the most we'd have in a truck is there'd be 4 of us. So including me.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there's usually a senior apprentice and a junior apprentice. So most days I'd say I take 2 apprentices with me, a senior and a junior.
Okay. Now for you, how did you come up into this? And do you think that your background in it is what inspired you to become this teacher that takes on so many and trains so many apprentices?
Yeah, so that's actually kind of a funny story. Dean Sinclair really likes telling this story because I was at Olds College taking agricultural production, and I was there mostly just so I could rodeo.
Okay.
So I was calf roping, team roping, and steer wrestling. Then there's an optional course for trimming, and there's a bunch of us who need a few extra credits. So we talked Dean into doing this trimming, and it was just on cadaver feet, right? And so I've been trimming my own horse since I think I was maybe 12 or 14 years old, or whenever Dad decided he didn't want to do it anymore. So then I had to start trimming my own. Dean saw me, working the tools and trimming the cadaver feet. And I always kind of thought if I ever got asked to do this podcast, I also have to give a shout out to the rodeo coach, Dale Butterwick, because one thing he really taught me was how to be coachable.
Okay.
And that's the thing. You see why some people excel and some people don't, is your ability to be coachable. And he spent a lot of time, in classroom stuff at the rodeo practices, teach us how to be coachable. So Dean saw that I could run the tools and I was coachable. So he convinced me to come back the next year to take the full Farrier program course.
Okay.
So I took the program at Olds College, and then I actually apprenticed right here at Spruce Meadows with Lance Sloman.
Okay.
And who you obviously have had on the podcast before. Connor was actually just getting started as well. Lance's son was just getting going. And Patrick Balage was around. We also worked with Marshall Isles. And I went out to Kelowna, BC and spent some time with Dean Sinclair out there as well. So those were my apprenticeship and my mentors at that time.
Now, Dean ran the school, right?
He was the head instructor at Olds College. And then he went back to Kelowna on the weekend during the winter. And then he was there all summer.
Right.
So I managed to get out to Kelowna and spend some time with him. It was pretty fun.
No kidding.
Yeah.
You said about your rodeo coach teaching you to be coachable. What are some of those lessons?
Like a lot of it is, the obvious stuff everyone talks about, putting their ego aside, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of it is being a good listener and asking the right questions and trying what they told you to do and not just trying it once, like trying it enough. Because, like sometimes you'll try something, oh, that didn't work, but you didn't try it enough.
Right.
So trying it enough and then, setting goals and wanting to improve and striving for them. And
so you were working for these different people and then started picking up your own business, I'm assuming. How far into your career were you before you decided to take on apprentices?
oh, I'd have to do some math, maybe 6, 7, 8 years or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, 7 or 8 years, something like that.
And what made you decide to take the first one on? Was your goal in the very beginning to be a teacher?
Yeah, I'd always liked teaching. When I started out, I looked at the people I really looked up to.
Yeah.
And I saw what goals they achieved. And, a lot of them had successful apprentices. So I just kind of thought it was just natural to do it. But I found I really actually do enjoy teaching. So, sometimes I feel like I almost run a school, but it's an after school.
Right. Yeah. A school where you have to pay them.
Yeah, exactly.
You have your system set up where if a person sticks it out for a certain period of time, there's a bonus, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think I'm the only person that actually does that.
And I think it's one of the neatest ideas, and I'm surprised more haven't embraced it.
Maybe they will after this podcast airs.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing because, and actually, just the business side of the farrier, most farriers are good horseshoers and good horse people, not the best business people.
Yep.
And I find that really interesting. I think the horse owners wish we were better business people a lot of the time.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I just started looking into it, just simple contracts. And it's only like a 2-page contract.
Okay.
But basically it's, you're going to work for me for say 3 years. Okay. And you can pay you a minimum of this, but like if you pass this certification, you're going to get a raise or
Right.
whatever.
So you've set many goals in there, incentive.
I'm always kind of improving the contracts as they go to. And,
Right.
there's some general rules in there, like, you're not allowed to steal my clients and stuff like that, which no one's ever tried to do that, but it's just good to have in there.
Yeah.
And then at a certain date, if you're still working for me, meaning you haven't quit and I haven't fired you, you will get a payout of a couple grand.
Okay.
It's different for every person. Depends on, if you're going to work for me 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a
Right.
week. If you're giving me 3 days a week, then the number at the end is going to be higher. So there's no set amount.
Right.
I kind of think of a number, and it works two ways because it's incentive for them to make it to the end of the contract, but it's also incentive to me to teach them because they're going to stick around for 3 years.
Right.
Right. You said earlier, like trying to get them to stick around forever. In a way, I do try and get them to stick around for a long time. And it's kind of a thing for me. Like you think about how long do you have to go to vet school?
Right.
7 years, right? So if you're at a barn and you're working with a vet and the vet's gone to school for 7 years, and then the vet says, you need to take the toe shorter, right? Thing we all hear that we all hate, right?
What? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got to take the toe shorter. And you're the farrier and you're thinking, well, I really disagree with that. And the vet says, oh, really? How long have you been to school for? And it's a matter of weeks.
Yeah.
The vet has no reason to respect you.
Right.
You've been at it for 5 minutes.
Yes.
You went to school for a couple weeks. They went to school for 7 years. But if you can say, I've got my journeyman and I apprentice for 7 years, then all of a sudden you're on even playing field.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lengthy apprenticeship is very, very important, but it has to be quality.
Yes.
I've got a guy who works for me 3 days a week, Calder Morris, is competing in the World Championships this weekend. He's been at it for 3 years. He's 21 years old. I think when people come to work for me, I'm not just started using them as glorified janitors. I'm really teaching them, and I'm quite particular. And my clients, I think they really trust me that my apprentices are going to do good work on their horses because they know what high standards I have.
You have for them.
And it's kind of funny now, like sometimes if I show up on an off day or something, it's just me to do a horse to get caught up. And they're kind of looking up and they're like, is it just you today? I'm like, yeah, it's just me. It's a holiday Monday or something.
Right. Yeah.
And they're like, well, why is it just you? And I'm like, well, it's a holiday Monday. I didn't book work. They're like, this is going to take forever. We like it better when there's 4 of you and you're done and gone.
Right. Yep. And as part of this apprenticeship, how do you structure your days? Because you've got shop time worked in there too, right?
Yeah, that's right. So the apprentices are at the shop at 8 o'clock in the morning,
Okay.
and they're going to sharpen the knives and they're going to pack the rig. And then they're going to make concave stock shoes.
Okay.
So that's their job every morning is to make some concave shoes. And in the summertime, they usually, maybe might get to make a pair of shoes before we're off for the day.
Okay.
And then in the wintertime, it just depends. Sometimes they get to make more.
Because you might have a shorter day sort of thing?
Yeah,
Is that the idea?
because, it gets dark here at 4:30
Yeah.
up here in the Great White North. So, they got their structured shop time where they've got to make stock shoes. And then, the shop's open for them anytime they want to practice for a competition or a certification.
Okay. And as part of your contracts, is competing a component of that or not?
It isn't, but it's expected. It's not written down, but
the unwritten rule.
It's it's I don't even know if it's an unwritten rule, but because competition is so important to me, I think if they're going to stay with me, it sort of has to be important to them. Otherwise, I think they're just going to naturally move on.
Right.
I go to a lot of competitions in a year, and it is an integral part of my Farrier business too. Like that's one cool thing about this competition here at Spruce Meadows is I've actually had a lot of clients stop in and watch me for the first time in a competition.
Right. Yeah, which could be also nerve-wracking.
I don't get nervous.
Well, and that was something you said as we were walking over here, that you don't get amped up about much, right?
I just found it wasn't helpful.
Is that something you had to train yourself not to do, or you're just naturally that's the way you are?
No, I do a lot of reading. So actually, I'm literally reading a book right now, and the title of the book is called Mental Toughness. And a lot of people are like, oh, Chad, he doesn't have feelings, blah, 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 which is mostly true. But I think a lot of it is about controlling your reactions.
Okay.
I just found that when you get nervous, it's not helpful. So I just don't do it.
Right. Just turn it off.
Just turn it off.
You don't have a technique you could share on how you do that?
Yeah, you just turn
I'm
it
just
off.
asking for a friend.
Yeah. Yeah, no, just turn it off. Just don't do it.
Right. It's that easy, folks.
Yeah, it's that easy.
So at what point in your career do you think you embraced that?
That was probably actually from my steer wrestling days, actually.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because one thing about in a horseshoeing contest is at least you don't have to jump off your horse and, get stabbed by a steer or something.
Right. Yep.
When you're steer wrestling, when you're in that box you're sitting on your horse, you have to be calm or your horse will get nervous. I think we've all heard that, if you want your horse to be confident, you be confident.
Yep.
Right? So you have to be calm and confident so you keep your horse calm and confident. I think I learned that from my rodeo days, and then I just transferred it over here.
Well, and it's been effective.
I think so.
Yeah. And you guys out west, you have quite the competition circuit, don't you? Or do you have to travel south?
No, we're very fortunate to have the North 49 Farriers in our area. And those guys do an amazing job of hosting competitions. And they got forges and anvils and vices all set up. And it's made competition really, really nice and easy.
Okay. I apologize for my ignorance on this. Do they have a trailer kind of set up the same way as Craig?
No, it's a cargo trailer and they unload everything. So that's how this started too. And then they're going
built up from there.
Built it up probably the same way,
Yeah. I guess we should talk about your business in general. Like, what type of horses do you work on? Clearly some jumpers.
We do a lot of jumpers, but we do a lot of everything. Like one of my bigger barns, it's really, really cool place. And when we shoe horses, we shoe multiples at a time. So we never shoe one at a time.
Right.
We'll literally be shoeing a jumper with corks, and then we'll be shoeing a penning horse literally right beside it at the same time. And then the next horse that'll come in will be a working cow horse.
Really?
All in one barn. And then we'll have some trims going on at the same time. There'll be lesson horses or even a brood mares or ponies or whatever. So even within one barn, I have nearly the whole mix.
Mm-hmm.
And we got some draft horses we shoe, and we got some light draft horses. And yeah, we're very, very well-rounded. It'd be easier for me to tell you what we don't do, which is we don't do any race horses.
Okay.
And we don't do any toe weight, anything like that. Any pad packages or anything like that.
Okay. You leave that to Kim.
That's Kim's job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are handmaids a big component of what you put on?
I think for maybe 13 or 14 years, I did not buy a keg shoe.
Wow.
And then I broke my wrist, and then I had to buy some keg shoes.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, so the apprentices would make most of the concave.
Okay.
And then I would make a 3/4 forward and the plain stamp for the most part.
Okay.
And then, bar shoes kind of depends.
Right.
Yeah, it depends if they got some bar shoes in a competition coming up, then they'll be making bar shoes for a while.
Right. Yeah. And you might as well put those on feet.
Yeah, exactly.
And with concave, I guess that for an apprentice, that's like the better starting point because it's really hard to mess up nail lines and stuff like that. But
yeah, concave is very popular out here.
Is it? Okay.
Unless we have the horses go on the synthetic footing, right?
Right.
But we're a short drive to the mountains. So a lot of people like to trail ride in the mountains.
Okay.
So they really like concave shoes.
Mm-hmm.
One story I always like to tell is Nick Bear was working for me. He was competing at the Canadian Horseshoeing Championships in the intermediate, and they had to put concave on the foot. The guy beside him got his foot trimmed and ran off the anvil, and he had his toe bend done, and Nick was still trimming. And he's like, "Oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to get ahead of Nick." Well, he was just drawing his clip, and he looked over, and Nick was burning the shoe on. And he's like, how did you get that shoe built ahead of me? Like, I was a heat or two ahead of you.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're burning the shoe on. And Nick just looks at me and says, I build concave shoes every day for Chad.
Right.
So I think it really helps them out to be making these shoes,
Yeah. Really makes them efficient at it.
Yeah. Whether they're going to a competition or a certification or whatever, it's efficient, and they're making a very nice product. When you center dot the lateral heel on your shoe, everyone has their own sequence of dots.
So you know who's.
So I know who to blame if it's not right.
That's funny. When you take on apprentices, do they have to have some previous education, or you'll take people fresh?
The rule was I would not hire anyone on who hadn't gone to school.
Yeah. But
rules are made to be broken.
Right.
So, and I'm just going to name drop everyone, I guess.
Okay,
That's just what we're going to do it.
Yeah.
They all work for me. I can name drop them. But Chad Lausen just started working for me. And he was going to go to school, but then he couldn't get across the border to the States.
Oh, okay.
So then...
Is this COVID issues?
COVID issues, right? So then he called me up and was like, can I come work with you? And I was like, well, I typically don't hire anyone who hasn't been to school, but his wife has been a farrier for 10 years. I've known her very, very well, Riley Swanby.
Oh, okay.
So he's gone to like all of the horseshoeing competitions and been a spectator.
Right.
He knows it inside and out. So this guy, he's never been to horseshoeing school, but he's seen it inside and out.
Mm-hmm.
He's 30 years old, and he was a professional bull rider. So basically a professional athlete.
Right.
And even though he hadn't been to school, he's actually very, very easy to teach. And he's progressed very, very, very quickly.
Okay.
So, rules are meant to be broken. And this turned out really, really good. So he's been hired on in spite of going to school. But he's the only one that hasn't gone to school before I hired him. And I've hired students from, I think, 7 or 8 different schools.
Yeah. And do you find that the quality from the different schools has varied drastically or not?
No different.
Yeah.
I think it has to do more with the individual than the school.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think if you were to ask any instructor, they would probably say the same.
Right.
They would like their school judged by the top students.
Right.
But unfortunately, the bottom ones are in there too.
Yeah,
right?
You can't control the fact that they go out into the world as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's the way it goes.
Yeah, no kidding. Now, back to the jumping stuff. Do you have many that are on synthetic?
No, not very many.
Okay.
Yeah, which I'm fortunate to not have very many on the synthetic.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
and
I don't
if they're
like that
coming
stuff.
over here, then they're also...
Then they'll wear 3/4 forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll have their corks.
You won't do even concave behind over here if they're showing in the grass?
They'll have 3 corks.
Okay, and that's how you do it. And one of the other things that Alberta is well known for is your cold winters.
Yeah.
I've seen minus 40 something degrees Celsius. It's not uncommon, right?
Well, minus 40 where I'm at is a little uncommon, but minus 30 is very common.
It is? Okay. If we got a few days in a row of that, we would be feeling pretty hard.
Yeah, last year in December, it was going to be the last day of work for the year, last day of work for 2022. And I managed to get out of my driveway and I hit the ditch across the road.
Oh, no.
So I think my trailer barely even got out of the driveway. And I just sent a picture to my client. I was like, I tried.
Not coming.
I tried. I tried really hard.
Now, there's a lot of challenges that come with working in that kind of cold. And do you find it a lot tougher to work in the winter, or you don't mind it?
It does help when we have a nice winter.
Yeah.
It does make a pretty big difference, because it's like, yeah, you're working in a heated barn, but sometimes you can't get to the heated barn,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, that's just kind of the way it goes when you live in Alberta, Canada.
Yeah.
You can't even get out of your driveway or down. And I live on a gravel road, right? So it's like,
Right.
if you can't get out of the gravel road, then that's just the way it goes. But
Yeah.
and it's kind of funny, like with all the indoor arenas and heated barns we're getting nowadays, it's kind of shifting because we're becoming less seasonal.
Right.
Yeah, like when I started, a lot of farriers couldn't do it full time. They had to have another job through the winter.
Right. Yeah, because everybody's pulling shoes.
And now it's completely changed, where we're getting so busy in the winter. It's like some farriers are getting a little caught up in it right now and experience a lot of burnout, because it used to be you get slow in the winter and you could kind of relax, and then you get to looking forward to being busy in the summer.
Right. Yeah.
But I think people are still trying to work super hard in the summer because they used to have to.
Yeah.
And then they're working really hard in the winter, and there's never a break.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, it's like every other farrier I talk to is burnt out.
Yes.
Like,
Yep. I mean, and the horses too. I think they get burnt out as well.
Yeah, definitely. So
They don't get that break either.
Yep.
Do you find you found some ways to avoid that situation?
burnout, yeah. So one thing I have done and always done since I started was I only book horses 4 days a week.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never booked horses more than 4 days a week. Fridays is not a day off. It's a shop day. So Fridays, I either go in the office, I do office work, I go to Hoof and Nail and get supplies, or I go to the post office, or I go to the bank, or I get in the shop and I make horseshoes, or I read books on anatomy, or I make tools because I have a bit of a tool business as well, right?
Okay.
And Fridays is a shop day. One of the things I always say is if you have time to shoe horses, you have time to learn how to shoe horses better. So therefore, that 1 day a week, that's there to make my business better. And some days it's you got to work on the rig too. Like there's always something to fix or clean up or tidy up, or in the shop. There's always something to do. It's work related. And then Saturday and Sunday are off, but sometimes Saturday, Sunday off means making shoes for practicing for competitions.
Right. And that was going to play into my next question, which is how do you, I've asked a lot of people here at the competition, how do you create the balance of competing and practicing for competitions to the extent that you can compete at this level?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have to big shout out to my wife, Melanie, who's amazing.
Yep.
You met her in England.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And the kids as well are really, really good. We try and make it anytime someone in the family is doing something, the whole family is there to support. So,
okay.
When the kids got a hockey game,
yep.
I'm there to watch the hockey game, whenever possible, right?
Right.
Or if Melanie's got a horse show, try and be there at the horse show. I think sometimes it's the space between spaces is where people don't have the time. So it's like, it's Saturday and it's November. Josh's hockey game's at 9:30 in the morning. That's not your whole day.
Mm-hmm.
We can get up in the morning. I can take Josh to the hockey game. We can even have lunch, and then I can go in the shop for a couple hours, make shoes, and then still have supper or whatever.
Right.
Another time I utilize for practice time is in the evenings, because I don't mind staying up late.
Yeah.
And everyone else in my house goes to bed early.
Okay.
So the kids are in bed at 8 or 8:30. Melanie's usually in bed shortly after. So the way I figure is if everyone is sleeping, I'm not missing out on family time.
Yeah,
so
that's your time.
I can go to the shop and get a lot of work done.
Yeah. And what time would you stay up till?
Oh, sometimes like the last couple summers, because I sell hammers to the Olds College.
Okay.
So they get all the students get a rounding hammer and a crossbeam.
Right.
So that's always September. And then the last couple of years I've been going to Stoneleigh in September.
Right.
And then this year it's Spruce Meadows in September. So sometimes it's in August, there's some 1 o'clock in the morning
right. Yep.
shop time going on.
Yep. Yeah, you've got a lot on your plate all in a
This
very
week was
short
busy
period of
because
time.
Tuesday, we came here and we got signed in. Then I zipped up to Olds because there's their first week of classes. So I sold my hammers there. Then I zipped back down for the competitors meeting and had a couple guys at the shop practicing, just borrowing my shop to practice while they're here. So zipping back and forth and practicing my own. And it's been a busy week, but it's been fun. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. Now you said you had Stephen Bean and who else was hanging
Ben
out?
Mangan came out.
Okay, yeah. So you've got two superstars in your shop. Did you pick anything up from watching them?
tons.
Yeah,
Yeah, tons. It was good.
What were some of the standouts for you?
Actually, it was kind of funny with the deep-seated bar shoe. Stephen was using a block and I wasn't.
Okay.
So then I was like, oh, I'm going to make this block. So then I just talked to Stephen and I was like, yeah, I made a block like yours. He's like, oh, I'm not using it anymore.
Well, that was helpful.
And that deep-seated bar shoe, I think I've talked to just about everyone and they switched back and forth on how they're making that thing. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I saw, I think Cody's run, he was using a block, but on that side, he was the only one using it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I've used a block and I haven't used the block, but yeah. And then on the Italian Hind, Ben helped me with my my heels on that.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool. So there you have two people that you are in competition with when you come here, but they're helping you beforehand to smooth out your game and get better, right?
Yeah, that's not foreign to me because I was the same way in rodeo. Like, if I was steer wrestling and then my buddy's on the Hazen horse,
Yeah,
and then he's out there helping me try to beat him,
right.
and then you got another buddy pushing the steer out of the chute. So, yeah, none of that is foreign to me, but it definitely drew me into the farrier competitions,
Right. The camaraderie.
the
And,
camaraderie, yeah, and helping each other out. And
yeah, I even saw in a run, I was just watching two people go and the striker, I mean, he's also competing, but he was doing everything he could to help
yeah, exactly.
the person he was striking for get the best score they could, right? Yeah, which I'm sure it makes a huge difference. Well, you even helped out Calder, right?
Yeah. Yep, young
Yeah.
Calder.
Yeah. Striking for him with your sweatshirt on.
Yeah, that's right. I
Yeah.
don't want to get burnt.
Oh, the tool making. So that was something I didn't know about you so I have Sanderson Bowens working with me back home, and he had bought your hammers when he was at Olds.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. And so that was new to me. When did you start doing that?
That was probably, I want to say 2014.
Oh, okay.
But recently, so when I broke my wrist,
Right.
I broke my wrist hammer sale because I couldn't do anything else, right? So, which was kind of funny because I broke my wrist hammer sale, and then we sold all of the hammers I had in inventory, all gone.
Okay. Yeah.
So I had this huge amount of hammers to sell, and I was like, "So Melanie, I can't put these in boxes because my hand's broken."
Guess what?
So Melanie had to spend some evenings out in the office putting hammers in boxes.
Okay.
So I sold out a hammers, and that would have been 2021, November 2021. And then obviously I couldn't do anything with my broken wrist. And then my wrist got better, but then trying to get caught up on work.
Yeah.
And then as soon as my wrist was 100%, I made the Canadian Farriers team. And then, okay, now we're doing all Canadian Farriers team stuff. So my tool business has mostly been on a bit of a hiatus with the exception of selling to the Olds College students.
Okay.
I've made that a priority, which I mean, so this week I sold 30 hammers
Wow.
to the students.
Yeah.
So, I mean, about making 30 hammers was about all I had time for. That being said, after this weekend, I'm done on the team. I didn't try out for the team again
Okay.
for this coming up year. So my team commitments are over for now. I'm going to try and get back and make a bunch of hammers and get it going again.
Okay. How long would it take you to make a run of hammers? How many hammers could you make?
Yeah. So we forged 3 at a time.
Okay.
And Keith, like I talked about Keith Orm, he worked for me for 10 years.
Yeah.
But he kept about 80 horses on the books in the Strathmore area. So sometimes when he's down, we just organize it, and he'll come and he'll strike for me making
Okay.
hammers.
Right.
And we really quite enjoy that because you're not really working that hard.
Right.
Because you probably only have, I never counted, maybe 20 or 30 hits in these hammers, but you can kind of have a conversation, BS a little bit, and
Right. Yeah. You're not
make some
killing
hammers.
yourself to make them.
Yeah.
and-
So I think we can forge out about 3.5 an hour.
Okay.
But then there's a lot of grinding and hardening and tempering and grinding again, polishing and handling.
And you would do that all in kind of a run, like once you have several made, or you still do it 3 at a time?
No, I forge them 3 at a time in the propane forge, but they're reasonably quick. So sometimes me and Keith will forge out 12 in an afternoon,
Okay.
12 or 16.
Right.
And then when I grind and harden them, I do about 8
Okay.
at a time in a run.
And that'd take considerable amount of time, wouldn't it?
It's enough time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of boring, grinding.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that when you listen to podcasts?
No, I like to pay attention when I listen to podcasts. So I do that when I do my office work.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do that either.
I made a rule for myself. I'm not allowed to listen to podcasts unless I'm doing office work.
Really?
So if I really want to listen to a podcast, I have to get in the office work and get my office work done.
Oh, it's an incentive.
Yeah, that's my incentive for doing my office work. Just listening to podcasts.
Yeah. Now, you spoke about us being terrible at business, and I think you've got a lot of that end of it pretty sussed out, don't you?
Yeah, I try to. And I try and research and read about it.
Okay.
As much as possible.
What are some things you think other farriers are doing wrong that you've kind of figured out?
I'm going to do a talk on business on Vancouver Island.
Oh, really?
In October.
Okay.
So I'm getting a bit of a PowerPoint presentation done. But there's this one, spoiler alert for those going to that clinic. I found this one meme, and it's this guy's talking to like an ape, and the ape's like, "Oh, you have to work hard all day?" And he's like, "Yeah, I have to work hard all day, but you don't have any money. You don't have to work all day, but you don't have any money." And the ape's like, "But you don't have any money either." And that's like 90% of a population nowadays is you work so hard and then you have nothing to show for it.
Yes.
If you started working in January and then December rolls around and you don't have any more money and nothing to show for it, you wasted a year.
Right.
I honestly don't think our clients really want to see a burnt out farrier walking into the yard. I don't think our clients want to see a farrier struggling to pay his mortgage and make his truck payments and feed themselves. And I think farriers that don't run profitable businesses are going to be forced to cut corners in their business because they're not supplied. All the stuff you have to stock in your truck, right? And it's like, oh, I don't have one of those, so we're just going to make do with this.
Right.
But if you're running a profitable business, then you don't have to make do with things.
Right.
You're not using that worn out pair of nippers or worn out rasp. It's like when your rasp is on week 7 and it's like bar stock, are you doing a good trim?
Yeah, exactly. No.
Your clients don't want that. I think clients would like to see us run better businesses. We've talked about business before. We've tried to talk about business at some farrier functions.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the stuff that's said, I don't like hearing, like, oh, yeah, like as long as you show up on time, you can put the shoes on backwards and you're going to get paid for it.
Right.
And I'm like, well, yeah, if you want to make $40,000 a year. But if you want to have a profitable business and be able to retire, then you can't be putting shoes on backwards or doing bad work. Like people want quality. And I think horse owners are starting to notice more than we think we do, because when they're standing there holding the horse, they have nothing better to do than watch you.
Right.
We always talk about we need to educate the public. Well, we started to educate the public, and now they're starting to know what good horseshoeing is.
Right.
So which means you have to deliver.
Good. Yeah, for those people who aren't going to up their game.
Yeah, you have to deliver every single day. I think it is important to do good work. And I think things like certifications, you hear people say, oh, you can get your certified, but, it's not going to make you any money. And I'm like, well, yeah, if you're bad at marketing. So what are farriers really, really good at? Trimming horses.
Right.
Right. What are barefoot trimmers really, really good at? Marketing. What are barefoot trimmers really, really bad at? Trimming horses. What are farriers really, really bad at? Marketing.
Right.
So surely if barefoot trimmers can market bad work, surely farriers can market good work.
Right.
And for some people, it's a bit faux pas to self-promotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so, okay, let's say maybe you got a bit of imposter syndrome or whatever, and you're uncomfortable with self-promotion, which I think is ridiculous because it's called advertising and other businesses do it all the time.
Yeah, they have to.
Yeah, but if you're uncomfortable with that, that's not a problem. What you can do instead is promote the industry. And if you promote the industry and then we have a strong industry, then that's going to be good for you as well in the end. So that's one thing I also try to do is promote the industry as much as possible.
Yes, and you do it very well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. The certification route, when did you begin that process?
I did that maybe a bit late, and I wish I didn't take so long to do it. But I got my approved Journeyman Farrier of Canada.
Yep.
And I was the first person to pass that test.
Okay.
And yeah, I wish I would have done that sooner because the value that is in certifications in the academic side And kind of what I was thinking was, you can go to competitions. I always go to lots of competitions. They're very, very important to me. And I was like, that's where you're going to test your skill level. But then I was like, where are you going to test your academic level? So when I took the approved Journeyman Farrier of Canada test, and because it's me, I had to treat it like a competition. I couldn't just do it to pass, right? So as of the audio recording of this, I hold the highest score on the written test, 97%.
Right.
So make sure you edit this and get it on. Well, that's still accurate. Because I'm sure someone's going to beat that eventually.
Right.
Then I'll have to retake the test.
Yes, exactly.
But I had to treat it like a competition. But the other nice thing about the Canadian system, the Canadian journeyman test, is there's an oral exam.
Right.
So you couldn't just be able to memorize the stuff on the test and pass that. You actually had to explain stuff.
What you know.
So I thought that was a very, very good way to test the academic side. And one thing, like I was saying, part of the reason why I wish I didn't wait so long is when people talk about certifications and you'll hear someone say, oh, well, it doesn't mean anything because so-and-so doesn't have their journeyman and so-and-so is a very, very good farrier. And I was like, that's true. And what so-and-so has done is they've made it so people who suck think they don't have to take the test. So,
right, which isn't improving the industry.
Exactly. So-and-so is a very, very good farrier. So-and-so knows their stuff really, really well. And so-and-so, maybe he doesn't need to take that test for himself, but then other people think that they don't have to either. And so I was thinking, you know what? I'm not leading by example here, so I better just take this test. And when the Canadian system come out, I really wanted to support that because I did think it was important for Canada to have our own testing system, something that we own. And it's not that any other testing systems are bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's not ours. So I think this is a good thing. So, and the one kind of thing I'm a little proud about that is, I hope it's okay to brag on this podcast.
Yeah.
I'll do a bit of that, I guess.
Yeah.
But
boast away.
Out of the 4 approved journeyman farriers in Canada who have passed that test, one is myself, one is Calder Morris, who works for me.
Yeah.
And another is Lynn Fleury, who worked for me for 4.5 years.
Right.
So 3 out of the 4 have come through my program. So,
right. Yeah.
And a lot of people have passed the test. I think they've had 72 people attempt that test now.
Oh, wow.
I'm really proud of not only what I can do, but what my apprentices and former apprentices can go on and do.
Yep. Your lineage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that is incredible. And it is a testament to the fact that you are focused on teaching them clearly.
Yeah. And it's a darn hard test. So I think anyone who passes it should be proud of themselves,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And didn't you find this is one of the big aspects that I found from pursuing the certifications was that I love textbooks and I would buy all of them and I would read them, but I wasn't reading them to pass a test. I was just reading them and I wasn't absorbing near the information that I started to when I was like, hey, I have to study for an exam.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up actually, because Kaylee McIntosh, one of my people, just wrote a book called The Farrier's Test Book.
Right.
And part of what that came on was when I started studying, I was like, why do I have to read through 4,000 pages? Why can't I just read the stuff I want to read? Because for the Canadian test, there's actually 3 books that you have to know. Kaylee's like, I think I can do that. And I was like, you do that, I'll buy a book.
Mm-hmm.
So it took her about 1.5 years, but yeah, she's got a very good book put together. It's 65 pages, just what you need to know. And then it also has the reference pages in the textbook. So if you're reading something about it and then you're like, oh, that's interesting, I want to learn more, you know exactly where to go into the textbooks to find it.
Exactly.
Part of helping me study was as she was developing her book, she would email me like the section on bones or whatever. And I'd kind of look through that, and then that helped me study.
Cool. Yeah, I spoke to her today. Apparently she's sold 100 copies already.
She has sold 100 copies as of today, yeah.
It hasn't been out that long,
Not very long, no. No, she was walking around and people, she had a couple for sale today and people kept bugging her and they're all gone now.
Yeah, good for her.
Yeah, so I guess she can go home.
Yeah. And pay for her way
Yeah, exactly.
home.
Pay for her way home.
Cool. Before we go to the short answer stuff, is there any soapboxes you like to stand on that we haven't covered?
just quickly,
Yeah.
when we talked about two things. We talked about competitions and we talked about bad farriers. Yeah. I just want to put those two together. So bad farriers don't know they're bad farriers. If you ever talk to a bad farrier that knows they're a bad farrier,
No. We're all the hero of our
exactly.
story.
So that's why competition and certifications are so important to me, is because you need to prove at least to yourself that you're not a bad farrier. And if you can pass your journeyman farrier test, you're a good farrier.
Right.
And if you can go to competition and you can hold your own there, then you're a good farrier. You need to have somebody else evaluate your work. You can't just do it yourself, because even the bad farriers have clients that absolutely love them.
Yeah.
And there is enough horses out there that will tolerate their bad work so that they, like I said, they can earn $40,000 or $50,000 a year, and they probably charge $50 to $60 less than the rest of us.
Yeah.
But they can, squeak by and earn their living, and their turnover is probably very, very high. Those Facebook groups where people are searching for a farrier,
Yeah.
and it's always the same 3 people pining for work every time.
Yeah.
These 3 people need to evaluate themselves and be like, okay, me and 2 others are the only ones looking for work every
Right.
single time on, it's like, yeah, we got 1 miniature donkey. It kicked the last farrier in the head, and just hoping someone who's willing to do it out in the pen. This December, and I need it done tomorrow.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll send you a PM. Yeah, what? I saw it come across. I'm like, no one's gonna bite on that. Yeah, 3 people. Yeah, sent you a PM. They're fighting
Right.
over to do this donkey that killed the last guy. Like, if you don't know whether you're a good farrier or bad farrier, take a test or sign up for a competition, and you'll find out.
And it shows you where you need to go from there.
Yeah, exactly.
To become that good farrier. No, that's a really good point. I'm glad I asked you that.
Yeah, thank you.
This portion of the podcast is called the Stratum Tectorium. These are the short answer, surface stuff questions, but it's okay if the guest wants to go deeper. Enjoy. All right, well, I guess we'll go to the books. You just said you are a reader.
Yeah, I'm a slow reader, but I am a reader.
Ditto. What's your favorite book?
You actually know the author very, very well. Andrew DeVisser,
Oh,
The Blacksmith's Guide to Financial Freedom.
yep.
Yeah, I really like that book because I've read a lot of books like, say like The Wealthy Barber,
Mm-hmm.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And Andrew DeVisser, basically what Kaylee McIntosh did for the Farrier textbooks, Andrew DeVisser did for the business and finance.
Yeah.
I'm going to give your buddy Andrew a shout out.
He would appreciate that.
Yeah, I hope so.
Favorite brand of nails?
Whatever is sponsoring competitions.
Okay.
I will drive any nail, but for me, whatever nail is going to support the competitions is what I'm going to buy.
Right.
That's something that's very, very important to me. Is we like going to these competitions and stuff, and if people are going to sponsor, then we need to support them.
Right. Exactly.
So I'm not going to save 2 cents on a nail to buy something cheaper when,
if they aren't supporting the industry.
yeah, exactly. So it's whatever nail is sponsoring the competitions I'm going to.
That makes sense. What shoe sizes do you generally have to stock the most of, or dimension?
Yeah, it'd be bar stock. Yeah. Very wide range. Very
clearly.
wide range. Yeah. But between 12 and 13 inches of steel probably goes on the most
Okay.
often. But yeah, I mean, we got some horses that wear like 9 inches of steel, and some horses, the draft horses, wear like 20 inches of steel, right? So
Yeah.
very big range.
You might have been the widest range I've heard in that question.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Favorite make of rasp?
None.
You don't like any of them?
No.
Is that what you mean?
None
Okay.
of them. And I, you know what? Everyone says green tang, but I don't like it any better than the rest of them. So I'm just going to say none.
Okay. That is a first too.
Oh, good.
Dream Farrier rig.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I thought I was going to be the first person to say this rig, but Vern Powell beat me to it. And that's like a living quarters trailer or
right. Yeah.
like a cargo trailer with living quarters in it. So you can kind of like drive around in style. But I mean, that's not a practical rig.
No.
But you didn't ask for practical rig.
No,
You said
just
dream
dream.
rig.
Yeah.
So yeah, the dream would be like either a toy hauler type thing or a living quarters trailer where you had all the minis out front.
Right. Yeah. It would make lunchtime just great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Have a nap while the apprentices are crunching.
That's right. Yeah. Well, yeah, if you're especially on those nights you're staying up till 1. Favorite rounding hammer?
Chad Lawson.
There we go. Favorite type of bar stock to work with?
3/8 by 7/8 flat.
Okay. Do you have trouble getting that here? Or
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why it's my favorite.
Yeah.
I don't let anyone touch it.
That is mine. Favorite pastime after work?
Yeah, I like camping, fishing with the kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, basically, if it's something I can do with the kids and Melanie, then I like it. But yeah, we really like camping, and my dad's got some pasture land beside a creek.
Oh, cool.
So we go camping there quite a bit, and it's just us and no rules. And
Nice.
so yeah, sometimes my parents and my brother's family will all camp there, and I like fishing. I don't catch very many fish, but everyone knows when I catch a fish because I post it on Facebook. and there's been none of that this year, so
Yeah.
no fish caught. I've tried, but I just didn't catch any.
You got to hang out with Danny Bennett, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he's always got a fishing
Yep.
on Facebook, a picture of one. Next thing on your bucket list.
Actually, it's kind of funny when I broke my wrist there. I kind of had to really think about this question because I got to listen to a lot of podcasts
Right.
when I had a broken wrist. I remember thinking when I broke my wrist, I was like, man, if my career was over right now, like if this wrist doesn't get better, would I accomplished everything I wanted to? And the answer was no. So I really had to think about that. And then since breaking my wrist, I got my journeyman and I made the captain of the Canadian Farriers team. I've been on the Canadian Farriers team before, but I hadn't been the captain.
Right.
So that was two big things to cross off the bucket list there.
Okay.
So now I'm kind of thinking what's left they're going to be very, very difficult to achieve. But obviously being top 10 in the world here this weekend at Spruce Meadows, it's probably not going to happen this weekend, but maybe one of these years coming up. And I would like to be a Canadian champion one of these years. I know, saying these goals on a podcast made it real, but and they are going to be very, very difficult to achieve. But I'm 39 years old, and I think I can go pretty hard till I'm about 50.
Yep.
So in the next 10 years, those are two goals I want to achieve. But I guess that's kind of where I'm at now. Is the only goals left to achieve are big ones.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You knocked off the little ones and
Yeah, exactly.
working your way up. Well, and you've got the tenacity. I don't think it's
Most days.
Yeah. You're also human. I don't think it's wrong for you to say that out loud.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, especially for somebody like yourself, because now you said it.
Now I have
Now
to
you
do
wanna
it. Yeah,
follow through with
exactly.
Exactly. Favorite brand of keg shoe?
No, I don't have one.
Okay.
No, I'd like to make all my own shoes if possible. I'd like to get back to that if possible.
Okay.
But no, definitely no favorite keg shoe.
Okay. What's your ideal number of horses to shoe all around in one day?
Man, that varies so much. Like, depends on who I got with me.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, some days where, if I've got 3 other people with me, we'll shoe like 17 with corks and then trim 30 as well or something
Wow. Yeah.
like that. Or if some days I have a day, I do have one day a week where I just take one apprentice and then the day's much, much smaller and more reasonable.
Right.
But yeah, my business isn't like most people's business, where I never work by myself.
Right.
So, one day we had just a half day and we did a ton of horses and someone was with me and they're like, man, like this was 2.5 hours and that'd be like a day and a half for me. But when there's 4 of us, it's
Right. Yeah.
so yeah, ideal number of horses. I guess I'm not going to answer that question. It just
All
depends. But who's with me? Because I do not like shoeing horses by myself.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not at all.
Favorite anvil?
Yeah, I got an anvil brand right now, a 200-pound anvil brand. But I also have a couple Canadian anvils that were made by High Country Horseshoes,
Okay.
which I guess they're not making them anymore. And I got an Emerson as well.
Right.
My 200-pound anvil brand is my favorite.
Your favorite. Okay. Favorite inspirational quote?
Do I have just one? Because I got a
No.
lot.
Rhyme them off. Lots of people don't have some, so
Oh, I
you
got
can
one.
fill
I'll make
those.
up for everyone
Yeah.
who didn't have one. So probably my favorite is It Sucks to Suck.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the second one would be Everything Happens for a Reason. And sometimes that reason is you're stupid and you make bad decisions.
Yeah. That's what, an Einstein quote?
I
or
think
no?
so, yeah. Actually, I'll give you an Albert Einstein quote.
Okay.
Imagination is more important than knowledge.
Okay.
That's Albert Einstein quote right there. A person who enjoys walking will make it further than a person who just enjoys the destination,
Right.
which is huge in our industry.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because as we talked about burnout is a huge thing, right?
Yep.
And I think that's part of avoiding burnout is if you truly enjoy your job, then you're going to be less likely to be burnt out. The person who enjoys walking, right?
Yep. I think that's also a good thing to keep in mind for people who are pursuing certifications and don't get it on the first or 7th or 10th try.
Yeah.
They learn something every single time that they go out and
exactly.
do a run.
And that's the thing is, I'll give you another one too. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is a part of the path to success.
Right.
So like one thing we talk about, I don't get nervous at competitions. I don't get really poopy pants when I do bad either, because it's a path to success.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just need to have a learning day, and sometimes that day's at a competition.
Right.
And you want to minimize that, but that's just sort of the way it goes.
Yeah.
If you stay at home and you're sitting in your beanbag chair eating Cheetos, yeah, you're not going to have to worry about it. You're not going to have that feeling that you did badly,
Mm-hmm.
but you're also not going to have that feeling when you did good either.
Right.
It's a neutral way of thinking. Is some days you're gonna win and you're gonna get that shiny belt buckle, and you should be proud of it when you do win that buckle. Or one thing, we talked about favorite brand of nails or whatever, supporting the sponsors. I used to host a horseshoeing competition at my dad's arena called the Alberta Farrier Championships, and I tell people when they're done is I don't care if you don't know how to make Facebook work. I don't care if you're modest or humble. When you win some prizes, you take a picture of the prizes that you won, you post on Facebook, and you thank the sponsors.
Yeah.
Because if someone donates a pair of tongs or whatever, a handmade pair of tongs, they want to see who it went to. And they want to get that coverage on social media. So, don't be afraid to brag, even if you're 3rd or 4th place. It's like, hey, you know what? I won some stuff and I went to this competition.
Right.
And I learned something. And I think clients really appreciate that too. Like my clients follow me on Facebook and a bunch of them stopped in to watch the competition this weekend. So I think it is important to put yourself out there. And that's the answer to your favorite inspirational quote question.
That was awesome. Do you have a Farrier Terrier?
No, Melanie has a dog and it barks at me when I come in the house.
It plays favorites.
Yep.
Yeah. I have the same situation and she's with me all day.
Yeah.
But yeah, she'd prefer my missus. If you're stumped on a case or need backup, who do you call?
I was thinking about this question too. I'm going to change it on you.
Okay.
Because everyone answers it the same way, but we talked about a bit about the business side of things. So if I have a question about business, I'm going to ask my friend Jason Robleski from Edmonton.
Okay.
Or I'm going to ask my friend Martin Morris from Vancouver Island.
Okay. The business gurus.
They run good, solid businesses, and they kind of a similar way of thinking that I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time with both of them. So it's just interesting. I think everyone's pretty good at talking about individual cases with horses.
Yeah.
We'll sit around and we'll share radiographs with each other. And and my friend Jason, he made a very good point. He's like, have you ever asked someone how to put a heel check on or how to make a calkin or how to weld a bar shoe? And everyone's like, yeah, of course. Yeah. He's like, have you ever asked anyone how to plan for your retirement? No, never asked anyone that. Why not?
Right.
So
as important.
It's just as important. I think it is important to run a very good business and be able to retire because, and I shouldn't say retire, but achieve financial freedom, like your good friend Andrew said, because just because you achieve financial freedom doesn't mean you have to stop shoeing horses, but you get to choose whether you shoe horses or not.
Exactly. Yeah.
So anyway, I sabotaged your question, but
no, I wouldn't.
I meant to do
that. It was quite welcomed. Do you have a favorite shoe or package for Mr. Lameness?
Yeah, probably just a bar shoe and a pad, I guess. It's a pretty common answer, I imagine, but
yep.
Yeah, bar shoe and a pad.
Now, would you use a packer or just like a rim pad?
I don't use very many rim pads.
Okay.
But I did just recently try out the new 3D frog sport.
Oh, did you? And do you like it?
I don't know yet. I
put
them on and
haven't
I'll
had
see
a
when
phone
I come
call
back.
yet?
Yeah, I haven't had any phone calls yet, so
that's good.
It must be doing good.
Right.
So I'll be interested to see what they're like in the winter here.
Now, it's funny online, especially with a lot of the competitors, you will see a lot of shade thrown on pads, especially the 3D pads right now, it seems. What's your take on that?
I think I probably used to be one of those guys.
Okay.
Yeah, but then, I started trying some stuff. And actually, when you used to have the question, leather or synthetic pads.
Right.
And I was like, man, everyone's saying leather. There's going to be something to this. So then I actually, because of this podcast, tried some leather pads on some horses. And I was like, wow, this horse has heel now.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, thanks to the Mullins Farrier podcast for teaching that to me. I wouldn't say I still don't use a lot of pads,
Mhm.
but I do embrace them on certain horses now.
Right. When it's needed. What do you use as your planner?
Paper, schedule book, but I do in a way back it up, because when I book a appointment, I text it to the client as well,
Right.
because and actually when you interview Russ Floyd
Yeah.
and someone stole his book, that happened to me too.
Really?
But before it happened to him, it happened to me.
No way.
Yeah, at a competition.
Who's this thief that's going around stealing people's schedule?
Yeah, I don't,
books?
his was stolen in Chilliwack. Mine was stolen in Barhead.
Okay.
And yeah, I went. My truck was broke into. Like a bunch of stuff was taken, so I started like tracking this thief through Barhead, and I'm like finding like, oh look, a size 2XL T-shirt. Apparently the thief isn't this size. And I was like, like just to trail my stuff is he was running away with my schedule book.
Okay.
He was dropping stuff, and I'm like, I'm gonna get my schedule book back. But apparently
He didn't.
that
drop
was some value to him,
Huh.
so he didn't drop the schedule book. And
Maybe wanted to learn how to
trail went cold.
operate a good business.
Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah, I do kind of back it up by texting my clients.
Okay. Yeah. That would save you in that situation if it should come up again.
Hopefully not.
Yeah. Favorite method of soothing aches and pains?
Probably stretching.
Okay. Do you do that daily?
Yeah. And when I broke my wrist there, physio taught me a lot of stretches for my wrist. But then while I was there, I kept picking their brain for other things.
Right.
As
Might
like
as well.
stretching as exercise, back, neck, whatever.
Yep. Favorite drink?
Rhine Coke.
Which rye?
Has to be made in Alberta.
I figured you were going to say that. That's why I asked. Now, favorite genre of music, and then we'll get more specific. Favorite song.
Well, I kind of listen to whatever Calder plays, I guess.
Okay.
Like when we get in the truck, you know, most people have their phone hooked up to the truck. Not my truck. Calder's phone hooks up to the
Oh,
truck.
really?
So,
He's the DJ.
So we listen to Calder's music
Okay.
all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't have a favorite song?
No, probably not.
Yeah, he's being elusive with the specific answers today.
I
folks.
guess so.
Yeah. One of the questions I haven't asked, and I decided we needed to add on here.
How am I supposed to prepare for that
I know.
one?
That's why I figured you'd be the right one to do it to. Knives. What knives do you use? Favorite Huff knife?
Rick Hall Knife and Forge is right here in Calgary.
Okay, yeah, right.
So, and Rick's been a pretty big supporter of competitions in the Canadian Farriers team.
Right.
So day to day, Rick Hall knives more than anything. I got some Tasakis as well, but
Okay.
more Rick Hall knives than anything.
Okay. And do you use a left and a right or a loop knife or?
Yeah. So, and especially right now, the feet are really hard where we're at.
Yeah.
So I have a left and a right Rick Hall for the frogs,
Okay.
and they only do the frogs. And then I have a Tasaki for the sole and the bars. And I also I got a Dan Salcedo knife as well that I've been using when the feet are hard.
Okay. Yeah, I've got one of those too. It is good for the tough ones.
Yeah, feet are pretty hard right now.
Mm-hmm.
We could use some rain.
Well, we kept it all in Ontario.
Yeah.
Do you work out?
It doesn't look like it, but yes, I do. Yeah, I run up the road and I got an exercise bike in the house.
Do you?
but
Yeah.
I'm just one of those guys. It doesn't seem to matter what I do.
Built like a brick shithouse.
Apparently, yeah.
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 What would you have been if not a farrier?
Homeless.
Yeah, that would. That's an original.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I mean, I did go to college to get into agriculture,
Right.
but mad cow disease happened
Oh, right.
right at that time. And then, you know, shortly thereafter, my dad built an indoor riding arena. So he built the indoor riding arena after I got into shoeing horses, but he was sort of moving away from it too. You know, I'm very, very thankful that people have chosen to ride horses and their feet grow, because I don't know what
else
I
you would
do.
Yeah.
And, you know, we talked about, you know, following your passion, and I couldn't imagine doing anything that wasn't my passion.
Right.
I guess I'm just very fortunate to do this, because there's very, very few people in this world who get paid very well to do what they truly like to do.
Yeah. I do feel fortunate.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad we were finally able to do this.
Yeah, no problem.
And best of luck with the rest of the competition.
Thanks. Yeah, it should be good.
Thanks, Chad. Before I let you go, I wanted to say a few words about a special gentleman who just announced his retirement recently. Tim Coln, CJF, FE. Tim made his living shoeing horses in Windsor, Ontario, which is just across the border from Detroit, Michigan. And it is seemingly far away from everywhere else in Ontario. But despite this distance, Tim was very active in our Farrier community, especially with the Ontario Farriers Association, where he was the president for several years running. There wasn't a single educational event that he didn't attend, nor a Farrier's post on Facebook that he didn't add a positive comment to. Probably one of the nicest people on the planet. And even though he was well into his career when he started the process, he decided to pursue his forging endorsement with the AFA. Now, Tim will tell you himself that he didn't achieve this goal on his first attempt, but his tenacity and willingness to keep practicing and keep learning eventually got him there. So, Tim, I would just like to say thank you for being such an inspiration. Congratulations on your well-deserved retirement. I hope you keep coming out to the Farrier events, because it's always great to run into you. Well, until next time, take care of yourselves and each other out there. We'll talk soon.